Well, friends, good evening. It is wonderful to be with you tonight. My name is Father Patrick Schultz. I'm the administrator here at St. Bart's, and just right now you have put to rest a question, a mystery that's been in my mind since I got here in June. It's the question of the acoustics of this parish. Let me explain. So I get here every Sunday. I'm here every Sunday, obviously, as the priest. And I get up here, I proclaim the gospel, I chant, I say, the gospel of the Lord, and it sounds something like, and I'm thinking, is it just the acoustics? And you all just put to rest that myth in my mind. That was beautiful. It's so good to be with so many beautiful disciples, some faces that I know from previous assignments, some different parishes along the years. It's just wonderful to be with you. So I arrived back here in June. June 10th is when I started here. I was very grateful that the bishop on Tuesday of Holy Week gave me this assignment, and boy, has it been fun since. It's an amazing community being here at St. Bart's. I really love this parish. It's a beautiful, beautiful church, beautiful property, even more beautiful people, and I'm just so privileged to be the priest here, and just very honored to be with you tonight. Very grateful to Marriages of Grace, the Maramies, for entrusting this event to St. Bart's. This is a pretty cool thing that we get to do with you, partnering with this awesome organization. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be a beautiful night. You know, I'm the chaplain for the Cleveland chapter of Legatus, and just this past Wednesday, Father Dave Pavanka, the president of Franciscan University, was our speaker. And he started his talk with something that just floored me. He just said, "Do you believe that the Lord can change your life tonight?" I was sitting there, I had a long, full day of work here, lots of different, emails, conversations, stuff over in the school, some headaches here, some frustrations there. So I came into the night just thinking, it's just going to be another good night. They're always good nights. I thought it was just going to be another good night. And there was no expectation in my heart that the Lord was going to actually do anything. And I was so challenged by that. It was such a beautiful, beautiful thing that he said, "Do you think the Lord can actually change your life tonight?" I was just offering that to you, just out of the gate here. Did you come here tonight thinking, this will be a nice date night? Get a babysitter for the kids, whatever you're doing, but did you come here with an expectation that the Lord could totally upend everything that you had going on before this, that he could radically do something beautiful and new? Because he can. He wants to. He's never just about the status quo. He's always drawing us deeper and deeper. I firmly believe that some of the most important work we do as priests, the most important work I do as a priest, is the work of marriage prep and marriage ministry. It's just so vital. We had a deanery meeting today, and afterwards, Father Jeff Barnish, who's one of the moral theologians in the diocese, he brought his 4th theology seminarians, those are the guys who are going to be ordained deacons this spring. He brought them to St. Basil's after this deanery meeting, and Father David Stavars, Father Ryan Mann, and myself, the 3 of us, sat down with these 4 seminarians, soon to be deacons. And Father Jeff wanted us to give them just some insight about marriage prep, about how to do it and how to fumble your way through it and all the mistakes that we made along the way. And we shared our insights and our wisdom as best we could, but all of us were sharing the same sort of thought, the same sentiment, that this work of preparing couples and helping marriages and helping couples flourish, it's the most vital thing we do, that our parishes exist to serve the domestic church. Like your marriages, your families, our parish exists to help you become saints and your kids become saints. And the cancer of our society is, you treat cancer on the cellular level. And the cell of society is the family, and the nucleus of that cell is the couple, right? The man and the woman, the husband and the wife. And the more that we can do to invest in marriages, the more that we can do to help aim them on this sort of vector of aspiration, aiming them towards the beauty of what God has in store, the healthier, the holier, the better our society will be. There's no legislation, there's no politician, there's no policy that is capable of reaching down deep enough into the soil of our humanity to really affect the change. Only God can do that. Only marriages can do that. So I want to offer a brief word tonight for you all to reflect on, and I want to just start with this. I want to point out and invite you to notice something, namely how you're sitting and where you're sitting, what you're facing. If you notice, as a couple, you're sitting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and face to face. Shoulder to shoulder and face to face. There's a two-directionality thing going on here. You can think of a cruciformity, right? This horizontal direction and then this, if you will, this vertical direction. I think this is really significant. And I want to suggest tonight for us to reflect on that. I think this posture in some ways, this holds the secret to successful holy marriages, flourishing, satisfying marriages. This posture. Archbishop Fulton James Sheen, who, God willing, one day will be beatified and canonized. Please, Pope Leo, if you're listening, get that done. He's my priestly patron. I went to New York City after I was ordained to kneel in front of his tomb and beg his intercession upon my priesthood. Prayed a holy hour in front of his tomb. I almost broke his prie-dieu. I was kneeling on it. It's another story for another day. But that had been something to shatter his relic. Anyway, so he wrote every book. He wrote around 70 books in his life, but one of the books he wrote was 3 to Get Married. This is extraordinary classic. And in that text, the future saint, I'll just say it, the future saint, he reflects on the necessity of marital love being situated within a deeper mystery of inexhaustible love. Marital love needs to be framed within the deeper mystery of inexhaustible love. The diamond of marriage needs the setting of Christianity. It needs the setting of the gospel, right? It needs the endless outpouring of the Trinity. So, since the call of marriage is to enter into Christ's own, his self-giving love, there has to be, the task set before you as a couple is beyond your capacity. You signed up for something that you don't have the resources to do. Just, I will be an icon of heaven's love for you. So in order to do this successfully, you have to be abiding and rooted in a love that's bigger than you. I know we all know this, but it's important to be reminded of these things. You know, as a priest, you get one of the coolest views during wedding liturgies. As a priest, you get a really cool vantage point. As the processional music begins, right, the groomsmen and I will process out of the sacristy, and we'll come here, we'll genuflect. I'll come into the sanctuary, reverence the altar, and stand back down here. The groom will post up down there with all of his buddies right there. And then the beautiful ladies begin to come down the aisle, and they form their line on this side. And then you watch as he comes to the center, and then those doors in the back swing open. And the music swells, and everyone stands. And that's when, as the priest, you suddenly have this perspective of God the Father in Eden, right? As he brings to the man who he just woke up from his deep slumber, he brings to the man the bride, right? The Father presenting Eve to Adam. And it's beautiful. And from where I stand, what I see usually is the shoulders begin to shake, right? And then the eyes start wiping, and everyone in the congregation, it's like watching this Wimbledon tennis match. They're like looking at her, looking at him, looking at her, back to him. And what are they looking at, right? Because objectively speaking, she's the most beautiful, most radiant person in the church at the moment, right? And what are they doing, taking their eyes off of this radiant bride to look at this blubbering schleb up here in the front in his tuxedo? What are they doing? What are you doing looking at him? What you're doing is you want to see if he is crying. You want to see if he's crying. You want to see if his heart is pierced. What we are looking for, what we glimpse in that moment is an echo of Eden. This one at last, bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. It's the piercing, wrenching, overwhelming experience of Adam gazing upon his bride in that first moment. And his eyes are locked on her, and her eyes are locked on him. Like the entire drama of their love, their whole story is captured in those glances. There's John Paul II who reflected on the entirety of the Song of Songs is a exploration of those initial words, this one at last, bone of my bones. Right? The bridegroom in the Song of Songs says, "You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You've stolen my heart with one glance from your eyes." We watch the whole drama of their love played out there. It's the whole movement of human love and the divine plan. It's the desire, I want to give myself and spend myself for you. And then he takes her by the hand. And then they both turn and they face the sanctuary together, shoulder to shoulder, and their gaze is now facing the Lord. That, I think, is so significant. They're saying they've come here. You, on the day of your wedding, you came to the church on the day of your wedding to enter into his story, his spousal love, his self-emptying gift. And then, of course, after the gospel, after the homily, the priest invites the couple back in front of the altar. Again, the altar, just to be reminded, it's not just a fixture of liturgical furniture. The altar, every altar is consecrated. It's Christ. It's Christ. This is why we bow to the altar. So they come and stand in front of the altar, in front of Christ, Christ who's hidden in the tabernacle, Christ who's depicted on the crucifix on the wall behind them. They're preparing to say their vows. And in those vows you said to each other all those years ago, in those vows, you promised yourselves to each other for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part. But before that, before the vows, the priest or the deacon said this, and this is what is of utmost importance. This is what I want to just, again, reflect on briefly tonight. The priest or the deacon says this: Christ abundantly blesses the love that binds you, and through a special sacrament, he enriches and strengthens those he has already consecrated by holy baptism. Before the plunge into the sacrament of matrimony, you were reminded of when you were first plunged into the mystery of Christ's love in baptism. That's what baptism is. Baptizein in the Greek. It means to be immersed, to be dipped, to be submerged into the river of his spousal love. That's what happened. From the Catechism, this is paragraph 1617. Catechism says this, that baptism, which is the entry into the people of God, is a nuptial mystery. It is, so to speak, the nuptial bath which precedes the wedding feast, the Eucharist. Christian marriage, in its turn, becomes an efficacious sign, the sacrament of the covenant of Christ and the church. Let me repeat that last line. Christian marriage, in its turn, becomes an efficacious sign, the sacrament of the covenant of Christ and the church. Marriage is the key that unlocks the whole story, the lens that brings all of Christianity into focus. Because the stunning proposal at the heart of the gospel is that there is a stunning proposal at the heart of the gospel. That the God of the universe is not just tolerating you, he looks at you individually. He has eyes for you with longing. He says, I want to spend eternity with you. He wants to draw you into the depths, this relationship that's lived in this life, in discipleship, as a marriage. The least inadequate analogy to describe what Christ wants for you. He's like, it's something like marriage. I want to be implicated in everything that is yours. In other words, at your baptism, Christ spoke his nuptial vows to you. It was then, in those waters, in your infancy, for those of you who were baptized as infants, it was that moment in your infancy, he looked at you and said, you are mine, and I am yours, now and unto eternity. I will hold nothing back. I am yours, he says to you. I am yours for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health. I am yours. I am yours. I will never hold back my heart. I give you everything. I will never contracept an ounce of my divinity. You get all of it. I hold nothing back. I pledge I'll give you everything. In those waters, he gave you, as it were, he gave you his last name, so to speak. He gave you his last name. Christian. Identity. Your identity was changed. Just as at your marriage, your identity was changed. You entered the church that day as an I, as a fiancé, and then you left the church as a we, as a spouse. Irrevocably changed. At your baptism, you became a we, you and Christ together. He took up residence in your soul through the indwelling presence of the Holy Spirit. Christ abundantly blesses the love that binds you, and through this sacrament, he enriches and strengthens those he has already consecrated in holy baptism. In other words, you were espoused to him then. My dear brothers, I know that can be odd for us to hear in the mystery of spousal love. It doesn't mean that you get feminized or you have to wear the white dress. It means you are drawn into the mystery of receptivity. He wants to pour everything into you. He wants to pour everything into you. He wants you for eternity. So how does he want to draw you into eternity? Through this adventure called marriage, through this other person sitting next to you, through your spouse. You are meant as a spouse to elicit a longing and desires in the other that neither of you can perfectly meet or satisfy. You are meant to provoke a thirst, a hunger that you can't satiate, you can't satisfy. Like, there is a structural reality built into the architecture of the human heart, the human experience, that we all have. You both have hearts that long for the infinite, perfect love of God, to be perfectly loved, to be perfectly cherished and seen and honored and treasured. All of those things. We were made for it, and we cannot help but long for this. This is how we were made. We hunger for heaven. And you taste it, an altogether extraordinary and different kind of love through this person that's sitting next to you, this person who got you to go down on one knee and say, "Will you marry me?" This person who looked at you and said, "Will you marry me?" And you said yes. Like, this person, your spouse, is a foretaste, a little morsel from the banquet of heaven. That's what brought you to the church. In your spouse, you began to taste and to smell the love that your heart was made for. But as you all know perfectly well, you married an imperfect sinner. Some of you are like, "Yeah." That's why we're here tonight, Father. Here's the deal, though. This is what's critical. Marriages suffer when you take your hunger for heaven and you aim it at your spouse. And you take your hunger for the infinite and you aim it horizontally at the person sitting next to you, and you say, "Love me perfectly, honor me perfectly, reverence me perfectly, cherish me perfectly, like the Lord alone can." You take this heavy expectation and impose it upon the person you married. They were never meant to have that job. It's not your job. It's not in your power. That's the great news. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just starve? No, you've already been consecrated. You are already espoused to the perfect one. You're already set apart. You're already chosen by the bridegroom. You're meant to be an appetizer for heaven, practice for heaven. Whether you're just married recently or whether you've been married 63 years, right? You too? Yeah, 63 years. It's so important to remember your first love. It's so important to remember who claimed you first, who called you first, who saw you first. He chose you first. He chose you first. If you want to keep your vows, if you want to have a flourishing marriage, then you have to run after Jesus with reckless abandon. There's just no greater gift you could give to your spouse, to your kids, your grandkids, your family than by letting him just overwhelm you with his love. To bring yourself there, to be open, receptive. Christ abundantly blesses the love that binds you, and through a special sacrament, he enriches and strengthens those he has already consecrated by holy baptism. Remember that. Remember that. Amen.